My name's my name's Chris. I'm confused about the facts. Vice Mayor Scanlon, you brought out a very interesting point about the facts. And the facts are according to you or according to the water company. And how are we to trust them? Because you have your interests, the water company has their interests, without going through the process of eminent domain and condemnation, where it's a legal set of facts on the table, hardcore definitions of what is what with the water company. How are we to trust you because you represent the water company without going through this?
That's a good question. So for now, let's not trust mine.
Yeah.
Let's trust the Fraternal Order of Police that have looked at this and said the same thing. Let's trust Commerce Lexington, the Association of Businessmen, who have looked at this situation, just a minute now, who have looked at this and said, this is not a good idea. Heck, talk to your neighbors. Most of the people in Lexington have looked at this and said, no, let's not do this. Talk to the small business.
How are we to trust you? How are we to trust you?
I said, do not trust me. Ask the people that are out. Ask the
people
Fraternal
on the
Order of Police.
courts and the jury can decide what the facts are.
And so can the public. The public is not stupid. They've been looking at this for years and leaning more and more and more away from it. You don't have to trust me, just ask your neighbors.
Let me ask you though, Mike, in the New York Times, the chief executive of American Water Works said government can run water systems as well as private companies. In the Wall Street Journal, RWE's chief executive said, quote, it's a very local business. That's when they on an article that RWE was going to get out of the worldwide water delivery service because it was too heavy of a commodity. Are you sure those guys wouldn't vote? Yes?
Yeah. I'm not sure how this guy coming up with the microphone is going to vote. And he's in the room. I have no idea how that poor guy at American Water is going to vote. But let's not contort what he said when he said water is a local issue. We're talking about a company that is a global-sized company, and I think that company learned very firsthand that water is not a global issue. It needs to be settled. The management of water system is not a global issue. I think they've established that.
But we don't know, and I mean, there's a lot that the voter's going to have to take on trust on either side because there are things that we don't know, like when the IPO opens next year, who will be the top stockholder in this? Will it be some entity or interest from a foreign country? Will it be domestic? We don't know.
But Cruiser, even if it is an interest from a foreign country, let's say that it is, nobody has yet told me what the detriment is to us. That is such a regulated industry. We own the water no matter who owns American water. The citizens of Kentucky own the water here. They own the pipes and the right to pass it. Now that sounds like a small point, but with all the regulation that we have, and all, I mean, heck, they operate under a franchise agreement. We've been talking about this franchise agreement several times tonight. There are so many rules and regulations. Can anybody in this room really tell me what difference it makes if somebody from a foreign company owns stock in the American Water Company? How is that going to be to our detriment? Can somebody tell me that? Foster, can you tell me that?
Mike, I come back to what I said in the last hour. You're attempting to phrase the entire debate as, where's the harm? Where's the harm? Where's the harm in somebody outside taking profits from our natural resources? You know, Kentucky has had a very sorry history of protecting its natural resources. With regard to our timber, our coal, and our tobacco, we've allowed outside the state. And I don't mean, I'm not talking about foreign countries now and state-owned investment firms. I'm talking about outside the state interest, which exploit our natural resources and take the profits out of Kentucky. Those of us who are in favor of local ownership make the case that local ownership is better, it's preferable, because the people making decisions are the people we run into every day.
Yes.
You're making the case that it is preferable, but you're not telling me why. We run into the people making the decisions every day. Can somebody tell me how that is going to make the water company get a better than a 93% consumer satisfaction score? It's one of the best ones in the country. Can anybody tell me that just because who are we going to run into on the street? You know, I try not to run into people on the street. So I guess I'm challenging that myth that local control is just better. If it's better, you ought to be able to tell me something more substantial than it's just because we're going to run into the people who run it on the street. Why is that better? Can somebody tell me specifically, if we own this water company, how we have more direct control over it? With somebody, Foster, you can tell me.
The very people who will make the decisions about expansion, about growth of the water system, about where pipelines run, about whether or not to be part of the Central Kentucky regional solution. If it was owned locally, that decision would have been made because the Urban County government is in favor of it. The problem is that all the decisions currently are made outside Kentucky by people who probably don't even know where lock number 9 is. And so that makes a big difference when you're looking at a decision and you're looking at a question of whether you can increase profits to the shareholders or improve local service.
Again, these are all general statements that don't give me a fact of what rule is going to be different if it's owned locally. What is it that there are people here that know what lock number 9 is? It just doesn't add up to make any sense.
We are live at the Lexington Public Library downtown with our town hall meeting on the water question here on News Talk 590 WVLK, and we go to the vote no microphones. Your name, please, and your question.
Hi, Jean is my name, Mr. Ackerman. In view of the stormwater issues we had, which were amazing, I thought, I'm fairly new to Lexington, and the fact that the EPA is going to probably drop all kinds of sanctions on us, and I think that will involve some money, right? How can you say, honestly, to the voters that the urban council can run the water company? I mean, if they're the people who make the decisions, weren't they the ones who made the decisions to let the sewers get in that shape?
I think you're talking about two different questions there. It's not really comparable to say that the storm sewer system is equal to the water company. Under the proposals for the local water authority, the governance of the water system would be under that water authority and under the statutes which govern how revenues get applied in terms of debt repayment, service maintenance, capital reserves, and all of that. There are protections inside the system. The potential for an EPA fine is really not relevant to the question, because if we have to go outside water revenues to pay the purchase price of the water company, then the referendum is saying no, that's not where to go. So if the question were, it's a $500,000 fine and we can't afford to buy the water company and pay the EPA fine, that's not what's on the ballot. That may be what somebody wants to have on the ballot, but that's not what's on the ballot.
Yes, go ahead. If you just get a little closer to the microphone, please.
Mr. Ackerman, with all due respect, this sounds like legal speak. If they can't manage the sewers, why should we trust them to manage the water? That's the bottom line.
Well, the proposal is that the local water authority would hire professional managers experienced in managing water systems.
We wish they'd done that with the sewers, I'm sure.
I believe Kentucky Americans offered us that opportunity, and I would like to see us explore that, just for the record. But the important thing here is, when I listen to the folks at Flow, they say the council won't be running the water company. And I go back to the fact that when the council and the mayor pick the board of directors and votes up or down on what the rates are going to be, they do in fact control the operation of the water company. The sewers are in bad condition today for one reason, and that reason is the council present and the council of former years have not had the political will or the business expertise to charge the proper rates to maintain the system. They want it to look good at the ballot box. They have ignored the maintenance of the system, and as a result, we have a bad sewer system. People get hurt, and we're fixing to get a ton of fines. So when you say the council isn't going to be running the water company, it just isn't so.